Welcome back to Taking Charge of My Cancer podcast, episode 66. I have the pleasure to join me today, Amanda Hollinger. Amanda has served as an executive director of the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance since 2018. With more than 20 years of experience in the nonprofit and public sector, Amanda has held leadership positions in a variety of organizations, including the YWCA of Greater Charleston, Trident Technical College, as a nonprofit consultant. Her skills include fundraising, federal and foundation grant writing, advocacy, community outreach, and organizational development. She is a co-author for a lot of different publications related to head and neck cancer, and she received her bachelor's degree from Guilford College in Greensboro, North Carolina, and her master's degree in public policy from the Humphrey School of Public Affairs at the University of Minnesota. In her free time, she enjoys cooking, running, volunteer, reading, traveling, and spending time with her family. Head and neck cancer has impacted the life of family members close to her, and Amanda is committed to helping this community fulfill its vision and saving lives through prevention, education, and advocacy. So Amanda, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Darlie.
Excellent. So how did you get involved with this Head and Neck Alliance, which I love it. I have following you guys and try to really, a lot of the, webinars that you guys put together has been such a great help. And I've been sharing that with some of my patients. I think that really helped them to navigate some of the things. And sometimes head and neck doesn't have a lot of support groups out there. So that's a really good way to kind of helping them out. So what that came through your path?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for all you do for patients. Like you said, there is still a lot of need for support for the head and neck cancer patients. And so I'm appreciative of everything you do. And thank you for following our programs and sharing those. We appreciate it. So that's a great question. I did not intend to work in the healthcare field necessarily. As you mentioned, I have a degree and background in nonprofit management and public policy. But about 15 years ago, I met Dr. Terry Day from South Carolina, who was really one of the founders of the organization. And we used to be called the Yul Brynner Head and Neck Cancer Foundation. So that was a long time ago. And I worked with him on a grant-funded project and got to know more about the head and neck cancer patients that he worked with as a surgeon and about advocacy. And when that project ended, I moved on to work with a variety of other organizations in social services, education, things like that. But I always stayed in touch with those volunteers and just really had a special place in my heart for the patients that I'd met and would attend some of their events and fundraisers. And about 6 years ago, he reached out to me as they were looking to really grow the organization further. And it was just a great time and fit for me career-wise. So I've been really honored and just humbled to be the executive director for the past 6 going on 7 years.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And you mentioned something about that has been some of your family members close to your heart that has been dealing with neck. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. So I have several family members that have been impacted by thyroid cancer in particular, which a lot of our head and neck cancer surgeons treat. But we actually, as an organization, tend to focus more on the oral head and neck cancer because thyroid does have different kinds of treatment and modalities. So, but I've also just had dear friends who've had partners and spouses that have been impacted by throat cancer and have just seen firsthand the difficulties that they go through, as well as, of course, now the patients that we work with on a daily basis.
Got you. So can you give us like 3 valuable tips or more for head and neck cancer patients that you have learned through this path?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the most valuable tips for cancer patients is to learn from each other. We have so many patients that have figured things out on their own that are really good practical tips for everything from helping with dry mouth to mental health resources. And I think the opportunity to talk with someone else that has gone through what you've gone through is really powerful. So I would recommend doing that. Often people are diagnosed and don't know someone that's been through the same diagnosis. So we do have a peer-to-peer program where we match people across the country. We have both English-speaking and Spanish-speaking mentors and can connect people in conjunction with the other nonprofit, Immerman's Angels, that does a wonderful job helping provide that kind of peer support. I guess another tip I would give is not to spend too much time on, as we say, Dr. Google. You know, that can cause a lot of anxiety. There's lots of different information out there. Not all of it is accurate. So really try to stick with trusted sources for information. The Head and Neck Cancer Alliance, various of the larger treatment institutions, your care team. And finally, I would say just don't be afraid to ask for support, not just for yourself, but for your care partner as well, whether it's your spouse or friend or partner, whoever is going to help be taking care of you during that journey. We realize that they also need support. The peer-to-peer program that I mentioned earlier is also for caregivers.
That's awesome. So, and I think this is really, really important. You know, sometimes we all worry about the patient, and even myself, you know, sometimes all our attention goes towards the patient. And we know the caregivers are just such a huge support, and they're the ones who really taking a lot of the toll, right? Because they're just not taking care of their significant other, but as well everything that goes on in their life that this other person
Right.
care of anymore. So I think it's really important for us to, you know, as much as I try to really make sure that they're like, are you okay? Are you having any support? Do you need any counseling? You have any other family members that can help you, or friends, or somebody who can, you know, just take a breather and then just go and do a little self-care yourself, versus just all about the other person. So I'm glad that you have the opportunity with your program to help with caregivers, because again, sometimes we just don't pay attention to those things, right? Because if we have our loved one having impact by any cancer, and mainly head and neck cancer that we know how debilitating can be for so many things, we just worry about them, right? We just don't matter anymore. It's all about them. It's all about, you know, what can I do to make them feel better? And because this is not just your cancer, your surgery, or when you have your radiation, it is, you know, it's the rest of their life impacting a lot of their function. Then,
Right.
you know, so it's super important. So I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
people have options for caregivers as well.
And we often have patients that say, you know, they want support for caregivers. They're concerned about the person in their life that they love and how they'll be impacted. So I do think we have some webinars we've done that are dedicated to caregivers, and we try to do that each year, just kind of have some focus on them, because it's important for the caregivers and it's important to the patients too.
Excellent. So how can they find you? How can people contact you or find your foundation?
Yeah, so several different ways. Our website is www.headandneck.org, and it's spelled out, headandneck.org. We also have a YouTube channel. We have social media. We have an online support community that has about 10,000 active members. And that's a good opportunity for people that that just may want to ask a question anonymously or not and get some support online. And that's free to join. We have patient ambassadors that help with monitoring the chat and making sure people get their questions answered. So that's another way to find us. We also have an e-newsletter, and we send out one a month. And if you sign up for that, that's on our website. You get information about what are the programs coming up, what are the webinars coming up. We sometimes have an online program we run called Ask the Expert, where we have an expert in a certain field there, whether it's dental or radiation oncology or nutrition, where patients can just come and ask any question they want, and that medical professional will do their best to get back and answer all those questions.
That's excellent. And I'll put some of that contact information in the notes
Would be
as well,
great.
so people can go to those. What will be the most painful lesson that you have learned along the way?
I think for me, it's been that, you know, no matter how much support we're able to provide, there is always a greater need. And there are areas where I definitely feel helpless. For example, the financial needs are just huge. We get calls each day with people needing help, whether it's paying for dental reconstruction, which can be tens of thousands of dollars, to patients unable to work because of their treatment, who are driving long distances, and sometimes the treatment's daily for 6 weeks, as you know, and are struggling to pay their rent or their mortgage or needing help with medication. So while we are always trying to provide support wherever we can, it is painful to know that there are just some larger systemic challenges with our healthcare system that makes it very difficult for patients on top of their treatment.
Do you happen to know if you have any, either your program or any other program? Sometimes we have certain things, like sometimes here at UF Health, we have like a grant for like breast cancer patients, where it's like some kind of like, help for certain things, gas money or lymphedema slips. Is anything like that patients with head and neck can kind of have access to?
Yes, so we have a patient assistance program to help with transportation. It's called our gas card program, and it's a one-time $50 gas gift card that we give to patients. We're getting ready to transition that into just a more general gift card to help with whatever your needs might be during treatment. It's not an unlimited supply, unfortunately, because the need is so great. So we raise funds for that, and we give that out until it's gone for the year, and then we close the program, and then we reopen it when funds are available again.
Okay, that's very good for patients. So they can just reach out to your organization and apply for it.
Actually, we have the administrator at the hospital applies on behalf of patients, so patients don't self-request. So usually a social worker or a nurse will go to our website and fill out the form.
Okay.
And that's how it works.
Okay, perfect. So will be
And-
more the healthcare provider versus themselves.
Right.
Okay, good to know.
And then we also have a list of resources that we keep, and we try to keep that updated. And we're starting now to update it based on state. So if you're in a certain state and there might be a resource, say at UF for a head and neck cancer patient, and there might be one in Iowa, we're constantly updating that and trying to keep that available with other resources.
Excellent.
And we also have a 1-800 number that people can call, and we try our best to get back to people within 24 hours. We have a nurse navigator that helps with those calls and just providing more information about resources.
Excellent. Very great information. What it means to advocate for yourself, and how can people do that? How can you empower them to do that?
I think that's so important. Just becoming informed about your treatment and about what the long-term survivorship aspects are is so important with head and neck cancer in particular, because post-treatment, for the rest of your life, there really are usually side effects, and they can vary depending on person and what the treatment was. But learning about ways to manage those side effects, to develop really a survivorship care plan, is a great way to advocate for yourself. Also, it's important not to be afraid to ask for a second opinion. It's a very common practice, and it can be beneficial in gaining additional perspectives and treatment options. So just being proactive about your health and you want to feel as confident and comfortable as you can with the medical advice and treatment plan that you receive. I also think it's important for some people to explore clinical trial options. And we have a tool on our website that's a clinical trial finder, where you can put in detailed information about the type of cancer you have and receive matches to different trials that may be of help.
That's excellent. That's very good. I think that's so important, right? Because we still some things, we were just literally talking today in our staff meeting about like just the swallow function and post radiation patients, and then what else can we do from the PTA standpoint to really try to improve those dysphasias and to improve that aspirations that can happen as a long term, and how it's just sometimes patients have no idea how complex these surgeries can be, and everything that comes along with that, and how much can affect them even, 10 years down the road. So sometimes it's just education that is so important from the, surgeon office to start to really, it's not just, yes, we're going to save your life, so we're going to take the cancer away, but what I'm going to leave you with is just really important for education. So patients know, oh, wow, this is not just a little piece of tumor that you're just taking out of my throat, but that means a lot more than that. So I think that's super important to just really, I think we need to improve a little bit better education on the front things before all the surgeries happen. So it's not a surprise, like how we hear patients like, I never was told that I was going to have a dry mouth the rest of my life. And I'm with that, or like this is an example.
Yeah, we hear that a lot too, or they're told it, but you're thinking of so many other things. You just want to survive and get through treatment, and it's not really sinking in the impact that'll have on your daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. So nice to have all these sorts of education. So you already mentioned something about what kind of resources the patient can get to educate themselves. You mentioned your organization, some of, the American Cancer Society. Any other resources that you feel that is important for the patients to reach out in this particular type of cancer?
Yeah, I think we have partnered with several different organizations to develop resources, and we're always putting new ones on our website. But we work with, we are part of a podcast each year with Cancer Care. And you can just Google Cancer Care treatment update for head and neck cancer. And that takes place each year. I think that's a good resource. We've recently partnered with a company to develop a campaign called Made of More, madeofmore.com. And that's advocacy organizations in the head and neck cancer space that we've created content that profiles inspiring patients and their stories, as well as useful resources about the head and neck cancer care team. And then another resource, Cancer Support Community has some great nutrition resources. Eating Well with Head and Neck Cancer is something that we've worked with them to develop. Another patient advocacy group called Spunk, Support for People with Oral Head and Neck Cancer, has a listing of support groups that they host across the country, which can be another good resource. And then, like you mentioned, of course, there's some of the broader ones like American Cancer Society and others that have some great information.
Great. Any podcasts or books that you would recommend?
No books necessarily came to mind, but the podcast with Cancer Care was one. I actually don't think there's a lot of podcasts in the head and neck cancer space, so I'm glad you're doing this. And hopefully there'll be more. This year, we're undergoing a big project to completely redo our website in terms of how it's laid out, and make it more easy to navigate and find resources. And I hope down the road that we can add, podcasts to that as well.
Thank you. That will be great. Is any question you wish I would have asked you, and what would you have answered?
I think one question that I think would be great to ask is how patients can get involved with our organization.
Okay.
We find that after treatment, many patients want to give back, want to help others, want to help raise awareness of this disease, which maybe they had never heard of until they were diagnosed. So we have a variety of ways that patients and caregivers can get involved. They can volunteer to be mentors in our mentorship program. We have an ambassador program, which is sort of like a speakers bureau for patients and survivors to speak at different conferences to help with different research opportunities. We also have a move-a-thon, which is just in its second year, and it is taking place in April, which is Awareness Month for head and neck cancer. And that's a really positive event where patients can join us as individuals, or they can start teams. And you can move during the month of April, and we're all kind of together online sharing what we're doing. If you're running or walking or biking or even knitting, whatever you want to do. And it is a fundraiser for our organization, but fundraising is not required. It's really about raising awareness and celebrating survivorship. And
Nice.
yeah.
They did something here, and I for the last 2 years, and I've been missing it every time because I happen to be usually in a weekend, I'm not in town. And there was
Yeah.
a run. It's like a run, like all the, the surgeons and all the team with the head and neck are there. So just like
Oh,
a
that's
5K
great.
for it, and it's a foundation as well. So it's like, you sign for the 5K and to collect money
Right.
towards that. Super fun. And like I say, has been 2 years on the road now, and I've been missing it every single time. So hopefully this year maybe it's happening on a weekend I'm in town.
Well,
But yeah.
we'd love to have you join our move-a-thon, and
Yes, please
we
send me.
also have a screening program where any sites that want to participate in offering free screenings, we send them kits with t-shirts and volunteer t-shirts and screening forms just to raise awareness about the signs and symptoms and risk factors about head and neck cancer. And sometimes those are held in conjunction with runs like that or move-a-thons or health fairs. So that's another way to be involved.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Send me that, because then
Okay.
we can always do stuff like that, or we can just do like a little walking thing, or how many miles
Yeah.
walking towards that cause or something like that. So it's always
Okay.
very helpful. That's amazing. That was a great amount of information. So within your organization, you guys have is a physician. So you mentioned one of the oral surgeons, right?
So we have a small staff. I say we are a small but mighty team, and we are governed by a board of directors of 21 board members, and they are just incredible volunteers. So they are really our medical advisors, our strategic visionaries, and they are comprised of head and neck cancer surgeons, radiation oncologists, medical oncologists, physical therapy, speech language pathology, advanced practice nursing, and survivors.
Excellent. I was gonna say it's important. I hope that PT is in there, since rehab is
There
a
is.
huge part of it. And
Yes.
many times patients really don't realize that. Like, it's like, it's not just about lymphedema, but it's about trismus. It's about working on your shoulder because spinal accessory nerve dysfunctions. It's about, post-radiation fibrosis. It's about helping with internal swelling with the
Yes.
because we're working on all that lymphatic drainage. So it's really a lot of things that we can really work on them.
And I forgot to even mention oral, dentists and oral medicine specialists, because the head and neck cancer patient really does have a need for such a multidisciplinary team.
Absolutely.
Takes a lot of different types of specialties. So
Yeah.
we're fortunate to have a wonderful board that represents many of those.
Okay. Excellent. Do you guys promote, like, and that can be non, I don't know if you know this answer, but I wonder if through the oral surgeons, a lot of like pre-rehab on these patients, like really referral to physical therapy prior to surgery for baselines, and really start to do a lot of education pre-op versus just seeing them after surgery?
That's a great question. We definitely have encouraged patients and are developing additional information about pre-work with dental professionals, but I have not heard as much about pre-work in terms of physical therapy. So that would be a great resource to add, I think.
Yeah, I think we have a great prospective surveillance program for breast cancer, and we
Right.
used to do that for head and neck prior to COVID, and all that just kind of really hasn't been as good as before. But we were just again talking today about like how important is that education ahead of the game, because then you can just prepare the patient better. They engage, we educate them, we tell them after surgery, if you notice ABC, make sure we see you at 2 weeks instead of waiting the 6 weeks when they go into radiation and they already having so many issues that by the
Right.
time they get to radiation, it's like, oh my God, I could totally help you 6 weeks ago to be in much better shape before you start radiation versus just radiation time. So I think that's, and it's not that many institutions who do that. So
That is powerful. Let's talk about that some more.
yes, yes. I think that the more we can put it out there, and we can then do baselines, right? So sometimes we see patients post-surgery and we're thinking they have lymphedema, but how do I know what you look like prior to it, right? So they can say, I can tell them, let's show me a picture. How do you feel that you have this little thing here on your neck? And they're like, oh yeah, actually, I think I had it that before. So like, how do I know how was your baseline if I don't know how you move now? How do I know how your scapula, your shoulder blade move now versus how it was before? So I think those baseline are huge. And then really it's a lot of the education. And again, the empower, like sometimes we do a lot of education so they can ask the physicians, you know, what about this and what about that, and find out if they're gonna be willing to do this or what happened with that. So just really give them some more resources to kind of have them educate so when they go see the surgeon as well, or just really preparing them better for what's coming after work. So I think that's really,
I think that's so important.
okay, excellent. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. That was like amazing information. So excited to really continue sharing that group. And then I even gonna be more excited to just say, oh my God, you have to kind of, I have you like on my preference spots where I have a lot of patient education, because every time you have like a webinar, it's like, you need to go and listen to this and hear this out and hear these other people. And I have heard some of that with patients, and it's just really valuable.
Thank you for saying that. And we also have brochures that we ship to clinics. So happy to send those to you if that would be helpful.
Please. Yes. And then we can talk more about where to ship them to. Excellent. Well, thank you again. And you have a great rest of
the day. Thank you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.